This video is brought to you by StoneAgeGamer.com, a fantastic site for retro games, systems, accessories, and more. Be sure to check out StoneAgeGamer.com. Skip it up and that up! So Tim Sweeney, he discusses Windows 8, he discusses DirectX 12, and he talks about virtual reality. And his thoughts on the future of Microsoft due to the Windows 8 platform. He doesn't feel too confident about Microsoft's future. This is what he had to say. I genuinely worry about the future of Microsoft. They've locked down Windows 8. They say future app developers should focus here, but you can only ship that with Microsoft's permission and Microsoft's approval through the Microsoft Store. And that sucks compared to the open nature of the PC platform before. Now, Tim, back right before Windows 8 was released and Gabe Newell ripped it a new one too, I would have totally been on your side. You know, the PC platform should be completely open. There shouldn't be a closed platform. You know, let people develop whatever the fuck they want to develop, and so be it. Okay, which you could still do with Windows 8 outside of the App Store. But then Flappy Birds came around. And then the guy who developed Flappy Birds got rid of Flappy Birds, okay? I'm talking about Android and iOS. And then, because he got rid of Flappy Birds, you saw a bunch of Flappy Birds knockoffs come around, and a lot of people were giving warnings that they were just software that were trying to get your personal information and trying to hack you, so they were telling people not to download Flappy Birds clones. If you go to the Android market, because I own Android devices, I don't own any iOS devices anymore anyway, there are a ton of shitty apps that are littered with ads that download spyware onto your phone, so on and so forth. And now I because of all this, my opinion on what Microsoft does with Windows 8 has changed. I understand, first off, they're trying to use the Windows 8 to integrate with tablets and the whole thing. We all know that. I understand why they're doing it now, to get away from that shit. They don't want 8,000 Flappy Birds clones. They don't want a bunch of shitty apps on there that barely do what they're supposed to, if at all, that just download a whole bunch of spyware onto your phone to try to get you to buy shit. Like, I had some app on my phone, I forgot what it was, that was so bad that when I was using other apps that had nothing to do with it, it would actually have like, I was taking a picture with my camera one time, and it was having advertisements come up when I was taking pictures with the Samsung app. It wasn't a third-party app to take pictures with. So yes, does this hurt Microsoft because indie developers who may not be able to get a green light from Microsoft, they get pissed, who are just totally legit indie developers who just want to make a good product? Yeah, that sucks for them, and I understand it. I know it does hurt Microsoft, and it may hurt them in the long run. But at the same time, if it keeps shitty apps like a billion Flappy Birds clones off of their tablets and their hybrid computers and whatever else the case may be, then so be it, man. I'm kind of on a different side of the fence now, seeing how much bullshit is in the Android market, and I really have experienced how negative having this quote-unquote open platform can be. And on top of it, you still have the regular side. I'm not talking about Metro, I'm talking about the regular side of Windows 8. You can still just develop software for the PC end of it that'll just install right on the desktop. Okay, I mean, you may not be able to buy it from the Windows App Store, but the Windows 8 platform isn't completely closed off. I understand why indie developers are pissed, like I said before, but I also understand why Microsoft is taking this stance and being picky about what they allow into their App Store. So I'm kind of torn. I understand what you're saying, Tim, but after witnessing the insane amount of bullshit that's in the Android market, or Google Play, I should say, Google Play Store, I see why Microsoft is taking the stance that they're taking. So I really don't know what the solution is, because both sides have negative and positive aspects. Now, on the flip side, Tim has a lot of positive things to say about DirectX 12. This is what he had to say about their newest API. I sense a kind of renaissance at MS in the last 6 months. Talking to the DirectX team, for example, they're making some brilliant decisions on DirectX 12 to make it more efficient and more open than ever before. You just generally sense a momentum to be more open with the community and more broad with their Windows strategy. I'm hoping that things take root. Yeah, this one I do agree with Tim on. I'm excited for DirectX 12. I'm glad to see that Microsoft is cutting the fat out out of their API so developers can really dig into PC hardware and not have to go around a bloated API like they've done in the past. John Carmack has been on record and on video complaining numerous times about DirectX and how bloated it is and how hard it is to truly utilize PC hardware due to the DirectX. So it's smart to see that Microsoft is doing this. Obviously, they kind of had to do this with DirectX 12 due to AMD coming out with Mantle, which is more efficient supposedly than DirectX, even though I think it's now considered kind of a dud. People weren't too thrilled with how Mantle did. But I'm hoping that DirectX 12 is as good as Microsoft is making it. I'm also excited to see, even though there's kind of a disclaimer to it and they were kind of misleading with it, that DirectX 11 cards can utilize some of the DirectX 12 features. When they first announced it, they were like, oh yeah, DirectX 11 cards will work just fine with DirectX 12. And there's like an asterisk later on saying, oh yeah, it won't be able to use all the features and some of the features will be GIMP, but it can work with a good amount of DirectX 12. If you have a DirectX 11 card, I should say, it will work with a good amount of DirectX 12 features, which is better than before, because when you had a DirectX 10 card and DirectX 11 came out, guess what? You were just shit out of luck and you had to get a DirectX 11 card. So it's definitely, DirectX 12 is a huge step in the right direction for Microsoft's gaming API. And now he talks about VR, and like many other people in the industry, he is smitten with it. This is what Tim had to say about virtual reality being a huge craze. It's technology that I think will completely change the world. I think it's going to be a bigger phenomenon than smartphones. Wow. You have to put it in perspective and realize we're in maybe the first generation iPhone stage right now, where you have this really cool device, but it has some real flaws that it prevents it from being a pervasive device for everyone. There might be an audience for 10 million users of the current tech, but as it improves with each generation, the audience is going to keep growing until eventually you're going to reach a critical point where you can put one of these devices and have an experience that is effectively indistinguishable from reality. I still think a lot of developers, a lot of hardware manufacturers, Oculus Rift, Facebook, Sony with Project Morpheus, they're putting a lot more faith into VR than they should. I think as a consumer entertainment device, I just see a niche market for it. It may be a bigger niche market. Maybe there might be 10, 15, 20 million people that are down with VR. But they're making it like it's going to take over by storm, and in 5 years, there's going to be 1 billion people using VR devices. I just don't see people in casual circumstances putting on a headset, okay, in its current form and in even newer iterations, putting on a headset and having the rest of the world shut out. I just don't see it. And the only way virtual reality can work is if it's virtual reality, that you're submerged into a different world, so you can't bring other people into that world, at least in its current form. The only thing I could see is if, like, Google Glass evolves into this thing where it can be VR and do all these other things where all you're doing is literally wearing something as thick as a pair of glasses that doesn't shut you out from the rest of the world, and you could still do the VR experience while being a part of actual reality, not just virtual reality. Where I think that VR is going to be successful, and once again, I don't think it's going to have that niche market in the home, and I really think nothing more, is in professional applications, commercial applications, where companies need maybe a really, really accurate training course. Where guys, like, for example, in New York City, when the ships come in with crates of goods from all around the world, those guys get paid well into 6 figures, and they have to for a reason, because there's zero room for error. You miss packing one of those crates on top of another crate, not only could it be hundreds of millions of dollars of goods destroyed, you could kill quite a few people in the process. Oculus Rift will be perfect for that. They can make some really cheap, affordable simulator, which would have costed boku bucks before, have someone put on a VR helmet, give them the proper controls, and they could have a training rig that may cost a couple $1,000 as opposed to $100,000 before. That's a really practical application for virtual reality. Also, to maybe if doctors want to do some kind of really in-depth diagnostic, that putting a person in a virtual world, they may be able to test more things on the person than they could just having them sit in a waiting room or in a exam room at a doctor's office, I mean to say. Practical commercial applications I see VR getting big with. Or like I said, if Google Glass becomes perfected to the point where you just put on this thin pair of glasses and you could have virtual reality that way, then I see a shot in the entertainment aspect of it. But in terms of like 8 billion people just walking around with VR helmets all day tripping over each other, I don't know. I just don't see it. I have to stick to my stance that I don't think VR is going to be as big as other people believe. I really feel on the consumer side of things, it's going to just be a niche market. I think maybe for the first year and change, it may be popular because it's something new and exciting, and that's human nature. But beyond that, people are going to be like, all right, I'm going to put that VR helmet down and game on my 60-inch flat screen again. People always seem to go back to just wanting a control in their hand, sitting in front of a TV, no matter how good these new exciting technologies are. Anyway, folks, make sure to rate, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And if you have an interesting news story you would like me to discuss, private message me with a link via YouTube. And if I use your news article, I will give you a shout out in the video and feature your YouTube channel in the description. Have a good one.